Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Financial Astrology. I'm just jumping on here. I've been pondering whether or not to make a video today. Oh, look, you can just see a little bit of my, I've got my screen on, but look, a little bit of my background is showing through there. Okay, what's this video about? We need to talk about the tariffs and we need to talk about the imports, exports, all of that kind of scenario. And I was just thinking, and I just thought, you know what? It's just time. It's just time just for us just to kind of just directly talk about this stuff, isn't it? Ah, you know, these times that we're in, these times that we're in, it's just like it's so extraordinary. It's so extraordinary. I've been really reflecting. I've been reflecting a lot. As you know, I've been doing my reflections videos anyways. But I've just really been just deeply reflecting on all of this. And I'm just like, man, oh man, this is really deep, you know. This is really deep. The consequences of this are so far reaching. Oh, I'm so sick and tired of these. One minute. Let me just I don't like them kind of let me just here. Let me just turn the it's actually better if I actually because you know normally I have my thingamajig background and I just don't like that. There we are. Let me just do the other one. Sorry, I should have done this before. I didn't know it was going to show up. There we are. I just don't like those two things kind of showing through. And oh, thank you guys for joining me. This really was unexpected. And look, I'm just going to show you the clips. I've got the YouTube clips lined up already, and let's discuss. Yeah, let's discuss. I want to answer any questions that you may have. There's also as well progress as well. As you know, I've been talking about digital currencies and stuff like that. And it seems the European Union are going ahead with plans for what, in fact, I already knew that there were plans for the digital euro. And I think I've already shared that already. But it looks like they are going to use XRP as the base crypto. Pardon me, the base crypto for that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then I just said, let's just dive in. And I've got some hellos to say. So Sherry, thank you so much for joining me. And Sandra said, I was searching for you, Hoagie. Yes, and I'm here. Thank you. And Tobiah is saying, good evening from Sussex, England. Yes. Some English here as well. So this is very much unplanned, a little bit of a stream of consciousness thing, but let's just dive in. All right. So as we know, we have Trump's tariffs. So I'm just thinking, what is that? I need to show you oh, here we are. Let's see here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you. Oh, Canada's here as well. Sandra saying happy month of May. And she said from, how do I say it? Kootenays, British Columbia, Canada. Thanks so much for joining me. All right, so for those of you just joining, I'm going to play a little clip. It's from CNN. And as we know, you know, the legacy media still has its uses at least when it's being objective, yeah, about stuff. And on it, they talk to one of these guys that is running the ports, one of the biggest ports in the USA coming out of California. I'm going to play for you about 4 minutes of it just to give you some context. And then I'll play you a little bit more. Now, you guys will remember, I think I've said it here, and I've definitely said it on my other channel, Hogarth's Global Astrology. Do you remember I said with that big alignment coming up, do you remember I said this is going to be bigger than COVID? Yeah, do you remember I said this ages ago now? I said this is going to be bigger than COVID. And this guy actually comes up with evidence to prove that that is already the case. But anyway, let me just do, if I do presentation, share screen, make sure audio is on. Yes, it is. And then let's go here. And I'm just going to share this clip with you guys. Let me just rewind it to the start. Let me just make sure the volume is up to the top as well. I'm going to play you the first 4 minutes. All of you will recognize this reporter here, I'm sure. And then we'll talk a little bit more, and then I will forward to the bit where he says, look, this is basically imports are down lower than COVID. All right, here we go.
I'm guessing it's how Wile E. Coyote felt, having vaulted over the cliff edge, suspended in midair, aware of what was about to happen, but unable to stop it from happening. This afternoon, the American economy, like our friend Mr. Coyote, is in that spot, in stasis, hovering before a likely plunge. How far or how fast will fall is a matter of some debate, but people involved in shipping, imports, and supply chain planning and economics are making themselves very loud and very clear today that the first dire signs of trouble are already here. Consider the sheer drop in volume among imports this afternoon, stuff coming into our country. Gene Soroka, executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, suggesting arrivals could drop by 35% this week or next, as shipments out of China have, quote, essentially ceased.
Do you hear that? 35% drop this week. And they say basically the Port of LA is saying that shipments between America and China, at least at this stage, have effectively ceased. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Beyond the effect this will inevitably have on the price and availability of lots of things, there are downstream effects on the entire economy as well. Watch.
How much are you going to see a real decline in dock workers if this goes on?
Yeah, this is the question. So the trucker hauling 4 or 5 containers today, next week, she probably hauls 2 or 3. The dock workers are no longer going to see overtime and double shifts. They're going to probably work less than a traditional work week, starting right off the bat. Every 4 containers mean a job. So when we start dialing this back, it's less job opportunities.
And what happens if we get a deal?
If we get a deal, it's going to take about a month. Let me walk you through that real quick. About 2 weeks to get the ships repositioned around these major ports, from Qingdao to Shanghai to Xiamen, load up all those containers, and then another 2 weeks to steam across the Pacific to get to us. This is important because now we're talking about spring and summer fashion. So we're kind of at a crux here that we've got to have something pretty quick.
This is where we are. And as the American people prepare for that scenario, best case scenario, if we have a deal right now, is a month. Donald Trump's approach appears to be, what are you complaining about? No big deal. He said so much in an interview with our colleague, Kristen Welker, on Meet the Press.
So this interview, I'm sure many of you have seen it. And it just confirms everything for those that have basically been paying attention. And you guys will remember, I think it was actually in my Greed of the Oligarch series. It was about an hour long, and I was trying to go through it and pick out some particular highlights and stuff like that. But I overlaid Elon Musk's chart and Donald Trump's chart with the chart of the USA. And you remember I was talking about how it affects the 12th, what is it? It was basically, and the inauguration chart, that was it. I think I overlaid it with the inauguration chart, and basically it was just indicating that Trump and Elon would increase losses, basically losses for the American people, things to do with health, food, etc., all of this stuff. And it's just because, you know, when one does these things, you know, I see things coming long off into the future. Yeah, and I'll make you guys will know, you know, I make my predictions early. Sometimes I make them so early that, you know, I even sometimes forget sometimes about them, or they're so early that people may not necessarily remember. So I've decided to actually kind of do things more like kind of 2 to 3 months out, just so it stays in the memory fresher, as it were. But I think you guys would agree, everything that I've been talking about, particularly in terms of that big alignment that happened on the 29th of March, where I said, you know, which I started to describe as what? The rude awakening. Yeah, the great awakening / rude awakening. And this is it. It's really getting real now. And do you remember I said once Saturn moves into sidereal Pisces, stuff's going to start getting really real. A lot of people are starting to wake up. Of course, those that didn't vote for this are already awake, and it's just dismay heaped upon dismay, isn't it? For those that didn't vote for this, you know, heck, you know, the whole world didn't vote for this. We had no say in all this, and we've been slapped. I mean, UK's been slapped with less, you know, 10%, but there's still 10% on everything. Japan is, you know, has not done anything to anyone, pretty much. They got 25%. So did the Australians, or they got 20. They got 20 or 25% slapped on them. It's a tax on the whole world. Anyway, let me just play some more of the clips. So this is Duck Larange's point of view, and of course, he doesn't give a damn. Surprise, surprise.
Trump dismissed a number of concerns.
Some prices are going up. Tires, strollers, some clothing in the wake of your tariffs.
That's peanuts compared to energy. Energy is 60% of the cost.
But sir, you
energy
campaigned, you campaigned on a promise to bring prices down on day
Well, I don't know. When
one.
you say strollers are going up, what kind of a thing? I'm saying that gasoline is going down. Gasoline is thousands of times more important than a stroller someplace.
But what do you say to Americans who say they voted for you because they want and they need relief right now?
And they're getting it.
Right now? What about those
even mortgage rates?
different items I just
mortgage
mentioned?
rates are going down despite the fact that we have a stubborn Fed.
But you said
So you see here, I mean, we all knew this was coming, didn't we? We all knew this was coming. And if we remember as well, if we remember in terms of when Biden was still in power, the big talk, of course, a big thing that a lot of people were complaining about was the price of eggs. Remember that, the price of eggs and inflation, which of course is big. Yeah, let's not ignore, let's not pretend that there was no inflation, because, you know, I've seen it massively. Of course, I've been coming to America for years. And I was surprised when I had visited in 2019. And then, of course, I was back in 2024 to see how much the prices were up. However, that was slowing. I think inflation was around about 4%. So it's still quite high, but not absolutely sky high. But of course, there were no tariffs. Yeah. Business was flowing. The economy was doing good by all accounts, both domestic and international. The economy was doing good. No one was complaining about the economy. Stock market record highs, etc. Record highs. We've all heard this. Since Trump has been in, there's been a contraction of 0.3% in the first quarter, so in the first 3 months. They said it was only 0, which is still a drop, but they said it was only 0.3% because in anticipation of the tariffs, companies and stuff ordered more, knowing that this was probably going to likely happen, which effectively kind of boosted the numbers. In the next quarter, that is not going to be the case. Quarters, of course, last 3 months, but as you would have heard in this presentation, it's going to be going down by about 30% per week. Yeah, so this is just astonishing stuff.
said dolls, even dolls could cost a couple bucks more.
Maybe they might, but you don't need to have, as I said, 35 dolls. You can have 2, 3, 4 and save a lot of money. We don't need to feed the beast.
I guess you're talking about this transition cost. How long should people expect that transition to last, Mr. President?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you that we're making a lot of money. We're doing great.
Donald Trump's war on toddlers, especially those who want dolls and strollers, continues. It's where we start today. Joining us now is the CEO of the Port of Long Beach, Mario.
All right, so let me just pause it there. So, you know, when Trump says, we're doing great, we're making lots of money. Yeah, we're making lots of money. He's talking about him and his friends, of course. That's precisely who he's talking about. It's like, what's the problem? Yeah. And we've seen footage where he wants to, he wants to add a ballroom. Yeah, he wants to add a ballroom to the White House, which he said is much needed. He's having a hugely extravagantly expensive military parade on his birthday in June. And all sorts of kind of lavish expenses along with the golf and everything like that. But you know, you and your kids, you can eat dirt. Yeah, just have less presents. Yeah, just have an empty Christmas tree this year. Anyway, I'm just going to forward this part here where I was talking about I think it's 6 minutes 50 in or thereabouts, where he confirms what I predicted, which is happening already, where I said the impact of all of this is going to be worse than COVID. I mean, everything. All right, let's just go about here. 1 minute.
Sailings, and that number exceeds the worst scenario in the COVID crisis.
Do your goods make their way, how?
So did you hear that? He said that number exceeds, let me just kind of rewind it a bit further because I might have missed a bit of context there. Let's go back 30 seconds on that.
As of May 2nd, Friday, that if you ordered through an e-commerce company in China a pair of tennis shoes for about $175, the de minimis rule is no longer applicable. So that shoe now has gone up from $175 to approximately $350.
$350 for tennis shoes. You heard him say that's the guy from the ports. No one's going to be able to afford that. Imagine those hikes like that going up across the board. Oh my God.
That gives you the magnitude of the price increase that we're talking about.
Let me just throw some more numbers out to you while we have you. So there were 34 canceled sailings from ocean carriers to Long Beach, with another 36 cancellations heading into the port of Los Angeles. Do these numbers, we have it here that they already exceed the supply chain crisis that you experienced during COVID?
Absolutely. Between the two ports at this complex, we've had 70 canceled sailings, and that number exceeds the worst scenario in the COVID crisis.
There you go. So you guys there, what are your thoughts on that? We see that prediction that I made has already come true. Already. He said that the amount that things have been cut because of the tariffs is already worse than COVID. So, tennis shoes being $175 going up to, what has he said, $350? What was it that he said? It was 300 and something dollars more. Astonishing, isn't it? It's just astonishing. So let's see. Let's bring you guys in on the conversation. Kaylee's here saying good evening, Hoagie, mods and all in the chat. And then let's see here. And then S. Thomas says, hi from Phoenix, Arizona. We are screwed. Yeah, I mean, you can't even argue about that. Yes, yeah, right about that, says Sherry agrees. And then people here, so tricky. Well, how do I say that? Nutritionists, I think that is. Hi, Hoagie and everybody. Glad that I caught this. Thanks so much for seeing you here. Katie says, I've seen the clips. We also have CP saying, aloha, friends. And then look at this. CP said, I heard that 80% of cat food is made in China and the prices will skyrocket. Oh my gosh. So even, I mean, I was saying to friends in the UK, and it's, bless them, unless you're paying close attention to this, like me, obviously people in the UK, we might be hearing a little bit here and there. And I've been saying to people in the UK, I said, China makes quite a lot of food products as well. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not everything, but there is quite a bit of that stuff is food, particularly with like the canned, dried goods and all of that stuff, stuff that transports well. Obviously not fresh food, or far less likely. But yeah, if you think of things like cat food, dog food, your cat litter, the bits and bobs that you would put in the cage, for example, even if you keep birds, or the tools that you use for gardening, pots, pans. Is China, of course, as we know, is the manufacturer of the world. Manufacturer of the world. And then Sherry says, the madness doesn't stop. Every day it's something. I don't drink, but when he's gone, I may have a huge cocktail. I'll just say start drinking now. Yeah. Sherry said he's so full of crap. He wouldn't know the first thing about a baby stroller. Yeah, indeed. And then CP's mortgage rates going down. That's not real. Yeah. And Kaylee's saying eggs are getting close to shortage again. They are close to sold out in my local Walmart. Yeah. It's just, oh, goodness. It's remarkable. CP says stock up on necessary items and start a garden. Absolutely. So you guys will remember I said, even though it might have seemed very radical at the time, because as you know, I predict things out often years in advance, but I stopped doing that now because it's too far ahead. But you know, now I try and do it like 2-3 months in advance. And you'll remember when I said when Uranus is in Sidereal Taurus, I said farming practices will change. And I said, the thing people need to do is buy land. Yeah. But obviously that's not the most practical, useful tip. I mean, but in the sense of like people here in the chat, it's like people collectively getting together and buying land. But what is most sensible to do do and more doable is to buy big planting pots where it is spring. It is the growing season. Buy big planting pots and grow your zucchinis, we call them courgettes, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, squash. These things, they're easy to grow. They're easy growers. And then when you combine those things with like rice and beans, you know, then you know you have a staple. And then you can get a little bit of a meat or a fish from somewhere, which obviously we know the prices of meat have just absolutely skyrocketed. But that means eating less meat. But if you can be bulking things out with vegetables, etc., grown in your own garden, you know, a few potatoes with onions, some tomatoes, zucchini, a little bit of garlic, fried together in a little bit of oil or olive oil. That is already the basis of a meal. And then, you know, you might want to pay that little bit extra, and that you might be having that with a slice of steak, for example, or a cheaper cut of meat that has been kind of broiled or, you know, cooked down slowly. Things like that. I think one of the things I see happening as well is that people are going to go back to kind of old recipes, almost like war food. Not that I don't think America has ever had rationing like we had in the UK, but that is definitely something that I would recommend you guys look at as well. Look up online old rations recipes. These were frugal recipes of how to make flavorful but nutritious food go further. You know, things like that. I'm going to share another clip with you guys. Let's just see. Someone said, Nicole Fairless says, I think she says here we are, shit's about to get real and bleak for us in the US. Brought eggplants this weekend. At least we'll have eggplants and tomatoes. Eggplant parmesan, here we come. Congratulations. Absolutely. And I know it's hard to even get the words out because it just weighs so heavy. But as you can imagine, when I was saying this stuff, and particularly with my friends in the UK, when I was telling them the likely scenarios that would happen, it's hard for people to believe it because they can't imagine it until it happens. But now it's happening. But there is still time. Like, you don't have to panic buy. I'm going to share a little clip here of this woman and of what she's doing. But just think of those practical things. You know, plant pots are relatively cheap. Soil is relatively cheap. The seeds are relatively cheap. Make sure there are seeds, of course, that you can plant again, but just buy the seeds in bulk. But once you've got a little rhythm going, remember, this is the time, definitely April, May is when you can plant things, have them grow. And of course, it will take a few months, but that means you can be bringing in your first kind of like, well, tomatoes, actually, they don't take that long, actually. Some tomatoes grow pretty quick. If you plant them now, you'll probably be getting your first harvest. Let me think, April, May, June, July, maybe July, August, definitely into September and fall. These, you can make chutneys and all of this kind of stuff. And even though, of course, this is Hogarth's financial astrology, but this is talking about things. This is talking about finance. This is also talking about ways to potentially save money. I'm going to share another clip with you. And this is coming from an independent YouTuber. I was just kind of Googling things, like looking for things on shelves. And let's see, who sure is, here we are. And this is coming, I don't know what her affiliation is. This is an independent YouTuber. Oh, she's got a few subscribers, 109,000 subscribers. And this is just, she looks like an ordinary American lady. Let's just hear what she has to say on this thing. I don't know if she's Trump or Biden or whatnot. I'm just wanting to share the information. It might be useful for you guys. Here we go.
Stocking our shelves before store shelves are empty. What I'm buying now to guard against shortages.
And by the way, where she showed some of those empty store shelves, some of that is recent footage, by the way. I'll see if I can find for you some of the clips being shared on TikTok about queues and emptiness at Costco. But anyway, let's hear her.
Rising prices and economic crisis. Hey guys, it's Gerald with Wicked Prepared. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got a prepper pantry haul to share with you. There have been dire warnings of empty shelves incoming over the next few months. The traffic to the ports has dropped off drastically, and there's going to be a dramatic reduction in what's available and what's affordable for our already stretched budgets.
She's got some foxy bits in there, so I think there's a whiff of fox going on here. But anyway, let's just hear what she says.
We know all too well the pains when the supply chain takes a hit, and it's happening again. There's also the ripple effect with jobs and employment when this happens, because so many jobs are tied in one way or another to the supply chain and the transport of goods.
So you can see she's on the money on that. We've just heard that from the horse's mouth.
So besides empty shelves, people are also preparing for the possibility of personal economic crisis and ensuring their ability to feed their family in case of lost income. The good news is we've learned a lot over the last 5 years, and more people than ever are serious about preparedness now. So most of us are going to ride this wave pretty easily. Panic buying is...
She says most of us. I think she means as in people that are already prepared for this. Yeah, a lot of people are not going to wear this well.
It's not the answer. So if you don't feel fully prepared...
Let me just rewind a bit, like she said about panic buying.
So if you don't feel fully prepared for the possibility of personal economic crisis and ensuring their ability to feed their family in case of lost income. The good news is we've learned a lot over the last 5 years, and more people than ever are serious about preparedness now. So most of us are going to ride this wave pretty easily. Panic buying is not the answer. So if you don't feel fully prepared, don't panic. Just make a conscious effort to add a few extra items, a few extra containers of water, a little something each week, and make it a normal part of your everyday life. This extra cushion of preparedness will serve you well no matter what happens in the future. Today, I'm sharing with you what we've added to our preps and our prepper pantry lately and why. So let's jump in and get started.
Take a little more action with a NatWest Cushion Workplace Pension. Tomorrow begins today.
We need a little advert.
Is a
Oh God, there's another one.
airy, contained, alone.
I'm going to start right over here with some of this stuff here. And first I've got this. This is a yeast spoon. So if you buy your yeast.
Anyway, so she then goes on, obviously, there with tips and, you know, stuff like that, which I think is probably quite useful stuff. So I hope you find that interesting. So look, that is giving a context, because these tariffs, which are taxes, have a direct impact, of course, on people's budgets. Of course, this is Sogar's financial astrology. So, of course, this is relevant to talk about. And it's one of the main reasons why I created this channel, because I could see there was going to be so much kind of financial upset and turmoil, particularly once March 29th kind of rolled round and once Saturn moved into sidereal Pisces. And I was saying a great illusion will be popped. Great illusions and delusions will be popped. Obviously, you guys are not neither illusional or delusional, but for those that are, this is the time period where those people are going to start waking up because of scenarios like this. So let's just read through a few more of your comments. Katie's saying, Regina, I don't know for sure, but I've heard rice will get more expensive and coffee. Yes, anything that is imported, of course, is going to, even if it's not from China. Remember, Trump has put a tariff on the whole world. Yeah, remember, even the penguins and the albatross in remote islands have also been tariffed along with army bases. So those minimums, the lowest tariff, as yet as we understand it, is 10%. So that's the minimum increase that you can see. Obviously, they're going to pass it on. Even if the tariffs were 3-4%, obviously the retailers are going to pass it on. 10% they definitely have. 145% they have absolutely no choice, or just the business just ends. It's as simple as that. Let's see. Let's just see here. Now, this is an interesting opinion. So Tartan Spy says, this may sound awful, but as someone who lives in Boston and is negatively impacted by freight ships, I'm not mad by the tariffs. I was screwed over by local customs clearance house, not sad. Well, yeah, there's that, but it will affect everyone. And of course, you will be affected as well, because the tariffs are so blanket. They're impossible to avoid, unless, of course, those things are made in the UK. I mean, in the USA. But of course, as we know, USA manufacturing is really not that much. And also as well, the effect of tariffs, the reason why it makes everything so much more expensive is that even if you're not subject to the tariffs, but you are a company, you can, of course, increase your prices by 10, 15, 20, 30% under, which may be under the imported goods. So you're still cheaper, but you're making a lot more profit than you did before. And this is why tariffs are so corrosive, and they're supposed to be very targeted. There's been tariffs for hundreds of years, but really, ideally, they're very targeted, and very rarely are they used in blanket ways. And almost never are they put at such extraordinary prices as Trump has done. Let's see here. Oh, Karen says, I've even tried to buy another small freezer for fruits and vegetables, but having difficulty finding even a used freezer. Stock up on other things as much as financially possible. Wow. Regina's saying she's got coffee. Tart and spicy, you can go onions, easy peasy. That's true. You always need some onions, because remember they add flavor. Pulses, beans, yeah, they're still cheap. And if you combine rice, they say if you combine rice with beans, then it actually starts to become a complete protein. Then you add some zucchini, like I said, a little bit of meat or fish or chicken, then you're starting to get a nice meal. Erin is saying America had a rationing during World War II. Victory Gardens. There we are. So look up that as well. Another thing that I would suggest, this is something I saw more kind of psychically in a dream. And I don't always talk about my dreams so much, but foraging. Yeah, foraging is going to come back big time. There are lots of plants that grow natively in America that are called weeds, which can also be foods. So I think there's books that you can get online, which is talking about, wild herbs, wild foods, foraging, all of that kind of stuff, which can kind of supplement things, particularly when it comes to salads and stuff like that. And as long as they're washed underwater and they're not too much by the roadside, they, they'll be pretty good. And they won't be sprayed as well, because obviously if they're there, it's because they've not been sprayed. And let's just see here, or at least one would hope. Nicole says, I bought a bunch of seeds as well as seed, onion, and garlic bulbs. Fabulous. Very good. So some of you are preparing already, it seems. Old Silver saying we had rationing and victory gardens. There you are, just backing that one up. And Lynette says, yes, we had rationing. I have recipes from my mother, who was born in 1920. She left Depression era World War II receipts for me. Yes, very good. So these are things, even though I know it sounds, I mean, isn't it amazing? It's astonishing that we're even having this conversation, aren't we? Because we're talking about one person here and we're talking about a cult leader and his devotees. This is one person that is spearheading this, obviously with the support of various douchebags. But essentially, this is one figure who's breaking all the rules, doing all of this crazy stuff. And now we're having to talk about war food and rationing and stuff like that. Here we are. Carly says his plan is to stop all elections. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's the next logical step. Nicole said they said stock up on pet food. The dog food brand that we get is from Canada. That's not going to be nice. Crumbs. Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? In terms of what's happening between the two countries, Canada and the US. Titan Spy says Boston has seed libraries. Excellent time to get those out. Lettuce. Kale can be harvested as late as November or December. That is true. And it's extremely good for you. Titan Spy says stocking up on bullion cubes. Let's just see here. Excellent. Deb says, and stocking up, working on our garden today. Oh, look at this. And Laurie says, I spent a whole day a week ago harvesting a ton. I think that's squash, that image, garlic and some onion. I think I have enough for a year. That is superb. So let's not forget as well, here I am, Hogarth the farmer, as if I... But I'm just very curious. I just love to learn about these things. Squash keeps for ages. Squash keeps for ages. It's one of the most storable of foods. And of course, it's, very nutritious and it's also bulky. So, you grow yourself a few squash and, garlic, of course, keeps for a very long time as well. But let's not forget as well, you've got wild garlic, many of the weeds, even nettles. Nettles can make a fabulous soup, for example. Put in there with some, half-fat milk. If milk is still cheap, some onions, garlic, some fresh herbs that you would have grown in pots. All the supermarkets, as we know, often sell the fresh herbs. Start buying them, yeah, because then you just get them fresh. Here we are. Laurie says, I'm growing kale, lettuce, spinach, hydroponically inside. I've already dehydrated some for later. Fabulous. And isn't that funny? Because I was talking about that as well. I said with Uranus going into Taurus, Taurus is a sign of food, asset classes of all kinds. I said farming will change. There'll be hydroponics. I think this is going to be a necessity with these tariffs. So just start preparing. Again, not panicking, start preparing. Start looking up things on hydroponics, how much soil you need, etc. Start getting a little system going. Even just a few plant pots on a windowsill, for example, can grow many nutritious herbs. If you think of things like coriander, which is easy to grow, basil, obviously you've got to keep the pests off, but often they're very high in vitamin C and minerals and stuff like that. So that's always good to know. Titan Spice is saying, I live in public housing, so us poor folk will be hurt because we don't have space or for fridges. That's a good point. Well, definitely the dried goods then, and the tinned goods, the tinned beans, etc. Lynette is saying many families had chickens in their yards in America in World War II, and they grew vegetables. They were lucky if they could grow fruit. So the important thing to know about chickens is this. Shall we say chickens that are mass produced don't produce eggs that have omega-3 in them. Now, omega-3 is an essential fatty acid, and you have to get it from your diet. The body's not able to manufacture it. It can manufacture many things, but it can't manufacture omega-3s. However, chickens that are fed in the yard and different stuff, and they eat worms and insects and stuff, apparently their eggs do have omega-3 in it. So even though one of those kind of GOP people rather kind of disrespectfully said, well, if you're worried about the price of eggs, just get some chickens. And of course, you need to have a yard and all of that stuff. But with the way things are going, I think it might be time. If you have the space, because if you think once your hens start laying, you've got yourself some very good protein there. And once they start eating the worms and the bugs and all of that stuff, those eggs become even more nutritious. Think of those rich kind of gold orange yolks that you can get. And that starts to become a very good food source, particularly with the price of eggs. But I think that can then go in all of your baked goods as well. So you can start making flans, pastries, combining them with vegetables. You know, it starts to start looking quite interesting, doesn't it? And let's see here. Tartan Spice is saying, Boston is stupid. They keep cutting down mulberry trees. Oh, I'm not sure why that is. Let's just see here. Lynette's saying, pet food as we know it will be a huge issue. Back in the old days, the dogs, cats got the leftovers, yeah. And then Regina says, I'm so happy that Australia and Canada woke up and learned from the US. I'm not so heartbroken that we have to go through this. It almost feels like the US is leading the way to wake up the world. Well, I think the world is already awake, really, to be honest, because we've been looking on in horror, as you can imagine, for years at the prospect of Trump. But I think what this is that it's a wake. It's going to be a massive wake-up call for particularly the MAGA voters. Not all of them. Some of them are just beyond redemption. We know this. Some are just beyond redemption, and they will just go over the cliff for Duck L'Orange. But those that have a bit of consciousness there, they're already kind of like regretting their vote. I think this is a wake-up call for the world in the sense of the harsh reality has obviously been, especially for Canada and Mexico, two of America's closest allies that have just been, you know, really not treated well at all. But this is the wake-up call. I think there's for me, the Oval Office, the Zelensky thing, that was crossing the Rubicon. Yeah, the way that kind of like the way he was attacked. Obviously, Trump has since spoken to Zelensky at the Pope's funeral. But I think this is a wake-up call for the world, because now, of course, the world is effectively going to be kind of trying to freeze America out of necessity. You know, they're doing their own deals with each other. You know, the UK, we're still trying to get a deal and stuff. I think Rachel Reeves is wasting her time, to be honest, because this thing is ideological. It's as we know, it's not about making Americans prosperous. It's about making everyone bend the knee. Trump wants to be worshipped like a pope. He's already doing the AI images of him as pope, apparently. Remember, we saw the crown on the head. Oh my gosh, let's just see here. Laurie's saying, yep, and Graham, some yellow squash and zucchini this summer, and winter squash too. Don't forget your vinegar and your pickling, ladies and gentlemen. Pickling is one of the best ways to preserve nutrients. Let me just put here, let me just close down this one here. And I think there is, one second, let me just put here, Trump as Pope picture. Yeah. Oh my God. You just can't. You can't make this. You just can't make this stuff up. As we know, like I said, Duck L'Orange is a lunatic. Yeah. Absolute loony bin. Where is it? Look at this. Just so you can see for yourself, just in case you guys haven't seen. Yeah. So pump. I said pump. Did you see with the P for Pope? Pump. That's what it would be, wouldn't it? God. Pump. Here, look. Trump, literally, look, just so you can see. Where is it? On his truth, so Trump shows image. Trump's Pope image shows lack of respect, decency. Look at this. Literally depicting himself as the Pope. You know, this guy, he's crazy. He's absolutely bonkers. Let's just see what the Independent is saying. JD Vance breaks silence on Trump's infamous AI Pope photo. I mean, it's just beyond. JD Vance has broken silence on Trump's now infamous AI image depicting himself as the Pope. The Vice President, a Catholic, remember, converted late, and remember as well all the Opus Dei and all the Project 2025 people. They're primarily coming from that Catholic bent, really, to be honest. He was one of the last world leaders to meet with the Pope, and remember, Pope Francis then died, so he did a Liz Truss. Before his death on Easter Monday, said that he was fine with people telling jokes. Trump has received criticism both at home and abroad, including from former Italian Prime Minister, Matteo Renzi, as well as the Catholic bishops of New York State over the image. So, this is what we're dealing with, guys. Yeah, this guy is. We know that he's got issues with. Cognitive decline and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, my picture just went a bit there. Why won't that share? What's going on? Let me just close down some stuff here. Could be someone saying growing microgreens in sardine cans. That's a useful one. Ah, yes, dandelions are edible. And then Titan Spy say join a food growing co-op. Yes, all of that stuff. And let's just see else as well. Nicole says they've joined a co-op as well. So look, you guys are taking action. This is really good. Oh, look at this. Nicole says, yes, kale grows great in Colorado. I totally couldn't believe how long I could harvest it. Same thing for Swiss chard. And remember too, kale is extremely good for you. It's a cruciferous vegetable, and it's one of the healthiest that you can eat. Brenda says, I live next to a berry farm, blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries. You guys are good. You guys are good. Frugal, aren't you? Yeah. And of course, berries are superb. There are arguments that they're even better than standard fruit because they tend to be lower in sugar but higher in minerals and nutrients and stuff. They are excellent for you. I eat blueberries regularly, and for my blood pressure, it's been superb. It's just been incredible. What's this? Ava says, leave a little white on the root, put in a glass of water in a sunny windowsill. Once the green starts to sprout, plant it in your kitchen garden. Haven't bought onions in over 20 years. Well done. Wow. Oh, I'm proud of you guys. This is a very resourceful crowd here. Let's just see here. Yeah, and Sandra says Trump's rising in Leo, very fitting indeedy. The Pope, yeah, or Pump, yeah, yeah, he is. As you know, I've gone over his chart a lot, but his rising sign is Leo, and it's conjunct the star Regulus, which is in the heart of the lion, which is associated with leaders of all kinds. And it's also conjunct Mars, so he sees himself as a warrior as well. But he would just do any old thing, won't he? As if he thought it would give him power. Sherry says the man who holds a Bible upside down, not an ounce of Jesus in that man. Absolutely. And then, yeah, and then someone say I froze. Yeah, I did froze, didn't I? Briefly. I've closed down some tabs. That was Carol there. And Carol says, Hogarth, you warned us. We listened. Thank you. So see this as a heads up, folks. You got a heads up here. No need to panic. If you don't have a garden, but you've got windowsills or you have a sunny window, like if you're lucky, a south-facing window, because a south-facing window, of course, gets from sunrise to sunset. You can get yourself plants. You can go, of course, use cans, like people said. You can use cans, especially for the herbs. Yeah, so like a can, if you think of a tin of tomatoes, once it's cleaned out, some soil in, some water, some seeds, that will be enough to grow basil easily, coriander. So I think you say cilantro, isn't it, for coriander, etc. Some thyme, rosemary, of course, can be grown in gardens. So just think of the larder, think of the things that you can grow, think of how expensive these things are now and how much you'll be saving on the store. So for example, if you are effectively saving yourself maybe 30, 40, 50 bucks each time you go to the store, that can then now go towards, because meat is becoming expensive, but now you can actually buy yourself a nice piece of meat, and then you can think of how that can be combined with other things, etc. Do you see? And it's also very, very healthy. But you guys are resourceful. And then, what's it? Ashley says buried terracotta pots in 4/5 into the ground, fill with water or rainwater cover. Helps keep plants watered during a drought. Water leaches out of the pot into the ground. There we go. And here CP says, will the tariffs impact cryptocurrencies? Well, the economy has basically been affected that. And thanks actually for reminding me. Let's do another share. And I'm just going to show you a little bit here of Christine Lagarde, just in case you're not sure who Christine Lagarde is. She is she basically runs the ECB, if I remember correctly, which is the European Central Bank. I hope I've got that right. And she is basically, look, Europe is going to be going for it. So I'm going to show you here. Let me just do present, share screen. Because you remember I said the currency will change as well. This is a guy called All in Crypto. I don't always agree with his opinions. I think he's a little bit, I don't always agree here, but let's just see here. There's the bit where, so I'll play you a little bit of what he says. 1 minute to give you a little context.
Doesn't know it yet. This was the publication European Central Bank. This is from their official Twitter handle or X account. I can't believe they've only got, they've not even got 1 million followers. Around 70 market participants, including merchants, fintech companies, and startup banks and other payment service providers, have joined the Digital Euro Innovation Platform to explore creative ways to pay with the digital euro. Let's go over to the press release. Now, out of the 70 participants, despite Ripple not being one of them, Quantiz, and Quantiz an overledger system.
He talks about various different. He's got good information on his channel. Now let's get the bit. So we see here now. Remember, I've been talking about Ripple, which is XRP. So you see, Ripple's partner architecture writes paper with Swift on CBDCs. So CBDCs are central digital bank currencies. So in case you're not sure, look back in some of my legacy videos here on this channel. And also look up as well what I was talking about with Uranus's 7-year transit in Sidereal Taurus. Remember, Taurus deals with asset classes of all kinds. So food, asset classes, all things of value, money, etc. And this is what I worked out a while ago, about, you know, probably about 2 years ago now. And I was like, okay, Uranus is the planet of the future, of digital, AI, crypto. So I thought, well, if it's once he's transiting for 7 years in the sign of assets and food, I said, of course, all of that's going to change. That means digital money. Yeah. So let's just see what he says on this.
Accenture established a partnership with Ripple to integrate Ripple's cross-border currency settlement solutions into its advisory services. And there's the Erste Group Bank. Erste Group Bank has been working with Ripple since 2016 on cross-border payment pilots. And there's a lot of indirects as well with ABI Labs.
Right, so you can see that. And he goes on to quote various different sources, reads out, you know,
Right. Bitcoin has really had its insane returns. Now I think it's time for the kind of utility tokens, if you will.
So utility tokens, as he describes, that's like your XRP, your HBARs, your they're not meme coins. That's the important thing. They will actually be used to transport wealth around the world. Yeah, let's just find the bit where it's talking about with Christine Lagarde. Let's see if I can find this bit here. So he gives a little context here. Let's just see this bit, and then you hear in her own words. You'll recognize her, I think, once you see her.
Recap on Christine Lagarde. This was a few years ago now, actually highlighting Ripple specifically in the nature of innovating payments, and that if people didn't get on board with this transformational shift, they would be cannibalized. Christine Lagarde's words herself. Let's dive into this.
The difference will not be between those who are disrupted and those who survive, but it will be between those who are cannibalized because they are not seeing it coming and they're not embracing it, and those who self-induce that cannibalization. And I'm using cannibalization on purpose because it's a bit of a striking, horrible word. But it's really what it means. It's you're going to disrupt your business model, you're going to change it, you're going to reduce your cost, you're going to expedite your transactions, and you're going to continue to inspire confidence because you will build that on the basis of an existing backbone, which is your bank and the confidence relationship that you've established with your customers. So that's where I see changes happening now. If you think of Circle and Ripples and all those, that's where they are active and helpful.
So the head of the ECB, Christine Lagarde herself.
Head of the ECB, yeah. So the European Central Bank. So I just thought I would share that there. And I've been going almost for an hour now. So that gives you a kind of a broader kind of like idea where we can see where, and that's why I wanted to come on live today, where we're talking about the impact of the tariffs and the real world influence on that and on people's pocketbooks and finances, but also showing you as well further evidence of where the trajectory is going. So you can see how this dovetails together. And this is part of a much wider transformation of the whole international financial landscape while Uranus keeps going through Sidereal Taurus. So what I'll do is I'll just get a little bit of, let me just get my software up and open, just so you can see where Uranus is now, because as you know, I always love to give you guys a little bit of the old astrology. And let's, all right, so let me just go here and then we'll close. We'll finish up. Let me just do present, show you some charts. Let's do entire screen. Here we go. Share, and then let's go here. Now what you're going to see is gray, but don't worry about that. We're just going to do new chart, and this is just going to be today. Yeah, it's not, I'm not going to save it, but just so you can see where things are. Maybe I'll just call it today. Let's just put here New York. There we are, New York, New York. Calculate. Right, so what you're seeing here, folks, is where the planets are right now. Of course, sidereally, as you know, I am a Neo-Vedic sidereal astrologer, but the sidereal astrology follows the accurate astronomical placement of the stars and planets. As you all know, in Western astrology, they are 24 degrees ahead of the astronomical placements. But I always say a good astrologer is a good, is a good astrologer, whatever technique that they're using, particularly if they've got strong intuition. So you see, this is literally effectively a map of the night sky right now as we are speaking. The moon is in the nakshatra Magha nakshatra, which sits in Leo. Yeah, and this is right on Trump's ascendant. Yeah, so Trump has got the moon in the first house right now. At the moment, I've got Mars in my first house because I'm a Cancer rising, and Mars is there. So I'm having a bit of a Mars return. This happens once every 2 years. But the important thing to look at is that if we look at this big stellium. Oh, I've just seen that Chiron has just moved into Sidereal Aries. Wow. It's there with the sun. So at the moment, the sun is in Sidereal Aries. Yeah. In Western Tropical, they would have the sun in Taurus, but of course, everything is back. This stellium over here in Pisces is still very powerful. Yeah. So we got Rahu with Saturn, Neptune, Venus, and Mercury about to move out in the next day or so. Mercury is currently at almost 29 degrees of sidereal Pisces. So he's going to be coming out of his debilitation soon. But they say Mercury is exact debilitation point. Well, it's from 0 to 15 degrees of sidereal Pisces. So things with Mercury should improve quite soon. Maybe there might be some common sense that might start to appear on the Tariffs, or will Duck L'Orange double down? But the important thing is here. Look, here we see Uranus currently at 2 degrees 24 minutes of Sidereal Taurus, still very closely conjunct the demon star Algol, as you've heard me talk about ad nauseum. Algol sits at 1 degree 10 minutes of Sidereal Taurus. And you can count on orb of 5 degrees either side. 3 is definitely a very strong hit. And it will not move off 5 degrees until later on in June. Yeah. So we're still going to be dealing with this theme of betrayal, upheavals, backstabbings, career endings, potential assassinations, or people leaving power, coming into power, all of that kind of stuff, which we've seen as well, sadly, with the Pope passing. And of course, conclave will be soon. I think it's on the 15th of June, the sun will actually be at 1 degree 10 minutes, right on the star Algol. That's when we really could see something happen with a global leader, which could be potentially shocking or unexpected. I mean, obviously, I don't want to be calling out for assassinations, but things like that are entirely possible, particularly as well when Rahu and Saturn are together. And the last time they were together in Sidereal Pisces was 1968. The sun deals with leaders. It's currently with Chiron right now. He's just moved in. And Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer. But when the sun moves forward, because the sun moves by 1 degree every day, yeah, so he's got about another 9 days or so in Sidereal Aries. And then once we hit that kind of, I think it's June 15th, he's literally, I think, around right on the star Algol, something like that. And the sun, of course, deals with leaders, CEOs, famous persons, people of impact. But Uranus will still be closely conjunct the stars. So this could be really treacherous. And this, of course, will be happening as well in Trump's 10th house. And this is why I say he's, oh my God, the military parade. Isn't that? It's on Trump's birthday, isn't it? June 14th. Let's just go forward in time. 1 minute. Let me just double check myself, because this is the Virgo in me. I want to make sure I got this right. Animated transits. Let's go here. Let's go monthly, and let's click forward a month. Oh no, actually no, it's the 5th. It's the 15th of April. That's it. That's when the star. That's when Mars is. I'm sorry. That's when the sun is on the star Algol. 15th of April. Let me do, if I just go back, in fact, let's go back and then let's do daily. And let's just take a look at the sun. I think it's on the 15th that I was talking about. Let's take a look. 12, 13. Yeah, 15th, 16th. Yeah. The sun will be exactly on our goal of May and very closely conjunct Uranus. So that's really when we could actually see something shocking or surprising happening with global leaders of all kinds. That will probably be conclave, should have been concluded by then. So that could mean that it could be an unusual one. Yeah. Particularly for Pope, could be an unusual one, but just watch out for news on that. And I think I even did a reading on Marjorie Taylor Greene and tarot reading on my other channel. She got some disastrous cards, so she needs to kind of watch her back a bit. But the point is that Uranus is going to be in, let's go back to main screen. Uranus is going to be in Sidereal Taurus for 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. So that is going to be 7 years of quite dramatic change. Oh, I see I've just gone over the hours, so I probably should call it quits there. But changes in farming, asset classes of all kinds, etc., all of that stuff. So you've been given the heads up. Well done to everyone who's already made their preparations. Spread the word. Please, of course, be sure to like and subscribe if you've not done so already. But definitely share so people can get this video to a wider audience so that they can understand that this stuff is real. The reason why I go on about this is because, it does come true. And again, that's not to blow my own horn. That's not why I've set up these channels. It was to give people forewarning so you can be prepared. Yeah, prepared for the things that are coming when no one else is ready. CP says it's giving me a donation. Thank you so much appreciated. Carol Ware says 7 years starting from now. Yes, so basically once when did Uranus move in? Uranus moved back into Sidereal Taurus. Oh, when was it? Quite soon after the inauguration. I'm going to say February because I can't remember because I get, so many dates in my mind. But basically, you can say like from February of this year up until he moves out. In fact, you know what? Why not? Let me just do another quick share and let's just take a look to see when Uranus actually moves out. Give you a precise date. I like my precision. So let's go animated transits. Just quickly show you this. Let's go yearly and I'll show you when he actually moves out. So it should be, when does Uranus actually move out? Oh, there we are. We're nearly there. Let's do monthly. Let's go back. There we are. And then let's do daily. Let's see what day he moves out. Give you the precise. Oh God. Oh, there we are. 1 minute. So basically on or around the 21st of May 2032 will be when Uranus moves out of Sidereal Taurus. Yeah, so basically from now until 2032, 21st, or you could, that's when he hits 0 degrees exactly of Sidereal Gemini. Yeah, but you can call it the 22nd of April 2032. Yeah, so this is we are talking about a time of incredible change coming to asset classes of all kinds. As you know, I've been talking about the money. Yeah, we now see Christine Lagarde, but she said that statement a few years ago, but it's moved forward. We've got the central digital bank currency. The digital euro is here. Of course, soon there'll be the digital dollar, the digital yuan, etc. Cryptocurrencies are going to become more mainstream. Farming practices are going to change. AI is going to be a bigger factor. But as things get more high tech, it's also good to be low tech as well with all of these tariffs and that stuff. So see it as having a heads up in advance. I hope you guys found that interesting. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And I'm going to leave it there, otherwise I'll go on too long. Carol says, thank you so much, Hogarth. Much appreciated. And what's it called? I think there's some, what's it? I used to live okay, I think I'll leave that there. We've got the thank yous coming in. And then Katie saying, change can be scary, but I really believe it will be good overall. Yes, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Not everyone is going to be able to cope with the changes, to be honest. Not everyone is going to be able to cope with the changes, but this is why I set up this channel specifically, to be able to give this kind of advice. So get your plant pots going, reuse your tomato tins, grow your herbs in there. Just start building things up. Don't panic buy, but think of the money that you will actually save, and then you can actually spend that money on some nice, choice, beautiful hand-reared chicken, or, you know, or even if you're vegetarian, even better for you, you know, risottos, you know, all that stuff. So many good things can be had. So I will leave it there, folks. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found that interesting. Please be sure to share. And I will leave it there for now. So big love, everyone. And I will catch you soon. You'll probably see me on Wednesday. Yeah, probably on Wednesday with Hoglish. All right. Bye-bye for now.